How the heck is everybody doing today? It is 16th of July, 2021, at the Coalface live this Friday afternoon, 4 p.m. New Zealand time. Well, about 5 minutes late today, so about 4:05 p.m. It should be around 2:05 p.m. Australian Standard Time. And I do have a trusty bourbon with me today, so hopefully you guys have a drink in hand at this stage if it's Friday for you. And I want to give a shout out. It's not a sponsorship or anything like that, but I buy off of an online website in New Zealand called Whiskey and More, and they have quite a range. Even though they specialize in whiskeys, they don't specialize in too many other spirits, but they do carry quite a broad range of bourbons. And I got this old Forester bourbon, which I've never tried before. They had it on a bit of a special, so I thought I'd give it a try. And it's actually pretty nice. I just have a little splash of water in there. And it's quite a tasty bourbon. It's quite a smoky. I'm by no means a bourbon tasting expert. I just like nice tasting bourbons that don't taste like they're gonna take the roof of my mouth off. That's probably why I'm not a massive fan of Scotch whiskey, because I find it just in many cases I find it just too strong, and it feels like I've got kerosene in my mouth. Whereas I find bourbon to be a little more caramelly, a little softer. It's generally barrel aged for a long time, so it tends to take on a lot of the flavor of whatever happened to be in the barrel beforehand. So again, I'm not a bourbon specialist by any stretch of the imagination. Obviously, don't sell bourbon, but Whiskey and More, very cool little online store, doing great stuff. They always get it to me in a day or two, and their prices are probably 25 to 50% cheaper than the local bottle shop. So yeah, shout out to those guys. They've been treating me really well for the last year or so that I've been buying off them. So and they've always got pretty good range of bourbons as well. So hopefully you've got an icy drink in hand, your libation of choice, alcoholic or non-alcoholic. And in the meantime, we will get into the news of the week, the e-commerce and digital news of the week. Now, just a reminder as to the format of this particular live, and that is the fact that I'll go through all of the news sort of up front. I'll give my commentary, I'll give my thoughts, and any feedback that's coming through the live stream on LinkedIn or Facebook or YouTube in real time. I won't come back to those until the end. So I'll just leave that till the end so that I don't sort of break the flow of the news discussion, and I'll come back to you guys at the end. So thank you very much for joining me, all of you that have, and then all of you that will watch this on the replay. Thanks again for your time. I always appreciate it. I appreciate every single one of the members in the audience. Look, I just know you guys are all busy. I know that everybody has a short amount of time, and anytime you read a post of mine on LinkedIn, or you listen to a podcast, or you watch a live, I really do appreciate your time, because I know everybody's time is precious. It's one thing we can't get back. So I always appreciate the time, and I try to respect you with the best information, the best knowledge, the best sort of experience that I can bring to the table possible to make it worth your while. So without further ado, we will get into the news of the week. And there's been a couple of pretty large announcements this week in the marketplace space. Now, for those that maybe don't understand or know the terminology of marketplaces, which, it's just the facts. A lot of people don't, especially end consumers, when they shop on Amazon or eBay or TradeMe or Catch, they don't think, oh, I'm going to a marketplace to do my shopping. No, they just think I'm going to the Amazon website, or I'm going to the eBay website to do my shopping. Well, those types of websites where they're effectively an aggregator of other retailers selling, third-party retailers selling on that site, that's known as a marketplace. So you have many merchants conglomerated together in one single marketplace. It's almost like the old concept of a weekend market, your local weekend community market, where a fairground or a rugby ground or a football ground gets opened up, and then you can have all these sort of local artisan merchants come there. They can set up their stalls, they can set up their stands, and they can sell directly to the consumers. Well, you can think of modern digital or e-commerce marketplaces in much the same way. You've got all these retailers. Sometimes they're manufacturers that are selling direct to consumer via those marketplaces. Sometimes they're just other retailers that retail other manufacturers' goods, and they collectively sell it on a given marketplace. But that's really what a marketplace is. So I never want to kind of make the assumption, and I oftentimes do mistakenly make the assumption, that everybody knows what a bloody marketplace is, but it's not common parlance outside of the e-commerce space. So just talking about what an e-commerce marketplace actually is, it's a conglomeration of sellers on one platform selling direct to end consumers or businesses in the case of a B2B marketplace where businesses are selling to other businesses by that same marketplace model. Now, there's been a few big pieces of marketplace news. Woolworths down here in Australia announced this week that they are going to launch their own marketplace. Now, this kind of just falls in line with what seems to be happening across Australia. It feels like every second or third week a new marketplace opens in Australia. I don't know what country in the world is the most marketplaced out country in the world, but Australia has to be near the top of that list. There are so many marketplaces in Australia, it's ridiculous, and there are just new ones launching all the bloody time. So, in most countries, you'll have one or two or maybe three dominant marketplaces. There's lots of marketplaces in Australia. There's well over 10 very, very popular marketplaces in Australia that are all very successful, all growing very fast. And Woolworths clearly wants in on that space. So they want to break out of that pure sort of marketplace type space, and they want to differentiate themselves from their biggest competitor, which is Coles, and they think they can do that by launching a marketplace. So they get currently, which I didn't know the statistic, and it's just flipping staggering, but they have over 10 million website visitors, or they call them consumers, that shop on the Woolworths website every single week. So that is just a staggering amount of traffic that their website is generating. So it makes absolute sense that they would do this. Their initial launch partner is a brand called Big W, which is a sort of a more general merchandise retailer, and it's owned by the Woolworths Group. So it makes sense that they would bring Big W kind of underneath that Woolworths marketplace umbrella. And it launched this week. And so Big W, as an example of how marketplaces often work with the third-party sellers, typically those third-party sellers will not list their entire catalog. They'll usually have a subset of products that they will sell on a marketplace, things that they want to sell high demand items that can have high throughput, that have decent margins associated with them, because the margin that they hemorrhage to the marketplace and marketplace listing fees, sales success fees, other marketing fees and the like. So Big W is no exception. The announcement mentioned that Big W has about a 70,000 item product catalog, but around 2,000 of those items will be listed on the Woolworths Marketplace to start off with. The name of the Woolworths Marketplace is called Everyday Market. It is a pilot program initially to see how it goes. It's a unique button. If you go, and I checked it out, if you go to the Woolworths website, there's a button that says Everyday Market. You click on it, and then it opens up basically all of the options for goods other than supermarket goods within the market. They have partnered, so Woolworths has partnered with a platform vendor called Marketplacer, and Marketplacer is an Australian marketplace platform vendor, so it makes sense that they'd partner with a local vendor for that. And Marketplacer counts among its clients Myer, which is a massive retail chain, in department store retail chain in Australia, and Myers Marketplace is a merged marketplace. You can't sort of tell the difference on their website between goods that Myer is selling you directly versus goods that are being sold by third-party merchants on their marketplace. But Marketplacer doing very well. It's very complex and hard and expensive to build marketplace platforms from scratch, so it makes sense that they'd partner, especially for this pilot program, with Marketplacer to get to market quickly. And the Marketplacer platform really allows the connection of the third-party catalogs into the platform, as well as the front-end selling experience as well. So they provide all of the underpinning, the plumbing, and the integrations to payment gateways and all sorts of other things. That's really what a marketplace platform does. It provides the ability for third parties to list their products on your website, upload catalogs either via API, CSV, manual, all sorts of other functionality that marketplace platforms typically provide, so you don't have to build it out yourself. Now, the next piece of marketplace news is OnBuy out of the UK. They're coming up on unicorn status. Similar to Australia, marketplaces are exploding around the world. OnBuy, very fast growing, very big, UK-based marketplace. They just raised another 35 million pounds to grow their marketplace. Up till this point, they were founded in 2016, and up until this point, they'd only raised $8 million in total, 8 million pounds in total. So, obviously a massive, massive jump from here, nearly 5 times their total amount raised so far in one hit. So they're obviously showing some pretty good growth. This is Series A funding, VC funding, and they're a little bit different to somebody like an Amazon, who competes directly with their merchants by selling directly their own products to consumers and directly selling other manufacturers' products directly to consumers in a B2C model. OnBuy doesn't do that. They're more like eBay in the sense that they're a pure marketplace. They only deal with third-party retailers, and they don't compete with them, and they don't kind of steal their data, which Amazon is kind of known to do. So they're headquartered in Bournemouth and in the UK, and they're basically going to use the money to grow. They're going to use the money to grow their technology and also reach out to more merchants. So it's going to be interesting to see how this plays out going forward in the UK, and how much market share OnBuy can take as a relatively young marketplace starting in 2016. Now, if we take these two pieces of news and the marketplace news that I announced last week, and it seems like every single week I'm announcing a new piece of marketplace news somewhere in the world, a general word of thinking and a line of thinking from me around this. I believe there is going to absolutely be a marketplace shakeout, a marketplace consolidation, sometime in the next 5 years. I believe that the number of marketplaces around the world, it's just unsustainable. We've got retailers launching marketplaces. We've got vertical specific retailers launching their own marketplaces. We've got major global e-commerce players launching new marketplaces all the time. We've already had some M&A activity. We've got West Farmers in Australia who acquired Catch Group. I think it was either last year or the year before, to bring that marketplace underneath the West Farmers umbrella in Australia. So there has been tiny bits of consolidation, but not consolidation to the point where it's reduced the number of marketplaces, just the big players snapping up the smaller players and leaving them as is, as a standalone marketplace. So, look, I don't want to, give my opinion on who I think is a weak player in the marketplace space, but I just think, just looking at the sheer volume of marketplaces out there and how quickly they're launching around the world, it's just unsustainable. And I liken it to the concept of the daily deals websites. So, if you look back 5 years ago, 6 years ago, 7 years ago, daily deals sites were popping up all around the world. They were sprouting up like weeds. Every country. I remember here in New Zealand, they were advertising on television, and there was like 5 or 6 major daily deal sites, and now there's 1 or 2 left. And there was massive consolidation, and now most of the daily deal sites have been snapped up by bigger retail players as a sub brand underneath those major retail brands. So they were struggling to survive on their own, particularly with the massive amount of competition that was in the marketplace. 6, 7, 8, 10 daily deals websites in a given region is just totally unsustainable, and that bore itself out. Why a lot of them went tits up. They went out of business. Some of them got acquired, some of them got amalgamated, and now we've got a much more rationalized daily deals model around the world, and usually in most countries there's one, if that. So I believe we're heading down a similar path with marketplace enthusiasm. Yes. Are they popular channels? Yes. Are they growing very fast? Yes. Is Amazon a globally, in many countries and many regions in the world, are they dominant when they go into those regions when they start out? No, but do they become dominant pretty quickly? Yes, as a rule they do. So, in the short term, is the marketplace explosion and the marketplace craze going to slow down? Probably not. However, I think, it's kind of like department stores, how in a given country and in a given location, how many bloody department stores do you need in a given mall? Do you need 5? Do you need 10? Do you need 1? And we're finding that out now, that in most malls, one single department store is all that a mall can sustain. So, in any given channel, whether it be digital or physical or phygital, regardless, there's only so much a local market can sustain in terms of supply. There's only a certain amount of demand, and so therefore there's only a certain amount of supply that can be sustained profitably. So do I think that every single marketplace that's raising money right now like it's cotton candy because there's a lot of excess capital looking for a return sloshing around in the system, and it's got to go somewhere. So it's going towards anything that's kind of remotely e-commerce related, which marketplaces sit underneath that e-commerce umbrella. Will they all survive? I absolutely don't think so. Will half of them die? I don't know. I can't give a percentage, but what I can tell you is I think that marketplaces, it's been overdone, it's been overblown, it's been overinvested, it's overly competitive, and I see some massive consolidation coming to the market over the next 5 to 10 years. So let's keep an eye on that. I certainly will be. Now, speaking of Wesfarmers, which I just talked about buying Catch Group last year, Wesfarmers, obviously a multi-billion-dollar Australian retail conglomerate, and they do about $60 billion a year in revenues across all of their business units, and I think they've got about 20 different business units. So they are an absolute 800-pound gorilla. Some of the brands that you will know most likely off the top of your head that they own and operate are Bunnings, Kmart, Target, Catch, Officeworks, Kohl's, and then they're heavily into ag tech, industrial safety, and a whole bunch of other verticals. So, absolute 800-pound gorilla in the retail space in Australia, both B2B and B2C actually. And they have just made a non-binding $687 million offer to acquire Australian Pharmaceutical Industries, which is listed on the ASX under the ticker API at $1.38 per share by a scheme of arrangement. So we don't know whether this is going to go through yet, but they have made the offer and API is mulling it over. And API has revenue last year of about $4 billion, and they are a pharmacy distribution and vertically integrated pharmacy distribution retailer, as well as a health and beauty retailer. So they distribute to Priceline Pharmacy, Clear Skincare Beauty Network, and others. So that would add accretive revenue somewhere circa around $4 billion a year to Wesfarmers Group, and it allows them to get into and penetrate into the lucrative pharmacy, health and well-being and beauty sector, which is just absolutely skyrocketing, especially during COVID and people staying at home. So it's going to be interesting to see whether they can actually get and pick them up, or whether they're going to have to increase their price, or whether it's going to get into a bidding war with other majors in Australia. It'll be very interesting to see what happens with this. In addition, API has a significant play with a brand called Washington H. Soul Pattinson, I read in the release, and they have a 19.3% shareholding in API, which they said that if Wesfarmers is successful in acquiring API, they will look to sell their nearly 20% of API to Wesfarmers as well, so that they can basically own it outright. So very interesting news. Huge numbers. I mean, $687 million. I mean, it's a rounding error for somebody as big as Wesfarmers, but certainly, $4 billion extra in revenues to enter completely new verticals that you don't play in is probably a pretty smart play by Wesfarmers. Now, speaking of Wesfarmers, they have never been really that well known for their e-commerce prowess. Kmart does pretty well. Their e-commerce offering is pretty seamless. It's pretty good. Target's okay, but they were really late to the party with any form of e-commerce at all for Bunnings. It's still a substandard experience, and in fact, they had to bring in a marketplace into the Bunnings model to really bolster their e-commerce offering and make it really broad for customers, because they just couldn't figure out a way to seemingly do it themselves direct to the consumer. So very interesting to watch what happens with Wesfarmers as they look to build out their e-commerce capability across their suite of brands, and how they look to dominate online and offline. So gonna be one to watch for sure. But Wesfarmers definitely not known for being hot for e-commerce. Now, in other news this week, Peloton launched in Australia this week. So it launched a couple of days ago on the 14th of July. Peloton, obviously the cult home fitness platform / digital connected consumer workout spin bike, product and services brand. They not only sell their incredibly expensive stationary bikes, but they also sell basically what are subscriptions for their training programs with a monthly fee associated with that. So it's reached cult status around the world, and it's now available in Australia. as of July 14th. Man, with some eye-watering friggin' prices for their product though. Peloton bike, their basic bike, almost $3,000, $28.95 in Australia. Their Bike Plus has a price tag of well over three and a half grand. So $36.95, nearly $3,700. Monthly membership for unlimited virtual classes, $59. While the standalone app that does not require the use of Peloton bike is $16.99 after a 90-day free trial. So, Peloton's, done very, very well as part of that whole connected home, connected health, connected wearable, connected self sort of marketplace. And it definitely is reminiscent of Lululemon's Mirror product, which they acquired a couple years ago, which is a connected home fitness system, interactive workout through a mirror where you can see yourself, but also see the video of the instructor, actually almost like television, giving you instructions about your workouts. And again, on a subscription model plus a hardware. So connected hardware and a subscription model. And Lululemon, they were very clear about why they acquired Mirror. It was to help push their workout wear as another advertising and marketing channel into homes that are equipped with the Mirror product, as well as to create a marketing channel through the fitness programs and apps, et cetera, et cetera. So clearly, Peloton is cashing in on that same model, and it's going to be very interesting to see if Peloton, starts to either do some really smart partnership deals with the likes of Lululemon and other activewear manufacturers and brands, or whether they're going to do some kind of deal with a Nike, or whether they're going to come out with their own range of physical workout gear and weights and everything else. There's a lot of opportunity in this space. So as a brand, Peloton plays in the absolute upper echelon of wankerness, basically. And no offense to anybody that has a Peloton bike, but basically we've got a net connected exercycle with a screen attached to it for $3,000 or almost $4,000 in some cases. So, interesting model. They obviously play at the very, very high end of town. It's almost like Apple products in the sense that if you buy a Peloton and you own a Peloton, you're going to want to post to Instagram about that, because they've really built the value in their brand to where it's almost like a mark of success. If you can afford a Peloton, then you've made it. You're a baller. So, really good positioning by them to effectively be able to sell what is in essence an exercise bike with a TV attached that connects to the internet. So good on them. It's going to be very interesting to see how, with those prices, which seem eye-watering to me, but again, I'm not their target market. So it's going to be interesting to see how well they do in Australia now that they have launched there. And I think they're in now about 10 territories around the world, and they've got a localized website in Australia now, .com.au. So very interesting to watch where they go with the connected health space. Now, another big announcement this week, TikTok reached 3 billion downloads. Now, that is just phenomenal. Obviously, other than gaming apps, there's only been 4 apps that have achieved 3 billion downloads previously. That's WhatsApp, Messenger, Instagram, and Facebook. So we're talking Western apps now. So very, very interesting to see where they go with this. Sorry, I just need to plug in my laptop. I thought I had it plugged in, but clearly I don't. I don't want it to die midstream on me. My Microsoft Surface, that is. It's not really a laptop, but anyway, sorry about that. Sorry for the interruption. But yes, so, phenomenal numbers, and it's just not something that happens every day. And what's particularly interesting about these numbers is that, TikTok has been banned in India, and that was one of their biggest markets in the entire world. And so when you look at the first half of this year, another statistic that they announced was in the first half of this year, TikTok had about 383 million first-time downloads/installs, and that marked a 38% year-on-year decline, largely due to the India ban. But the sheer numbers are just mind-blowing when you think about how many times it's been downloaded and installed. Then the other piece of news that they announced along with this was just their growth in consumer spending in the app. It's just, once again, staggering numbers. Q2 2021, it climbed 39% year over year versus Q2 2020. It's up to US $534 million through the app versus 384 last year in the previous quarter. So just phenomenal volumes being done through the platform. It's mind blowing. It really is. It's pretty incredible, especially when you consider it wasn't that long ago that Donald Trump was basically going to get it, threatening to ban it from the United States, and they were just about ready to sign a deal with Oracle and Walmart to acquire it and domicile all the data in the United States and everything else. Well, Joe Biden has recently issued an executive order which basically winds all that back. It revokes all the actions done by Trump that would ban the app, and ultimately it's looking like they're back on a free playing field in the United States. So TikTok, absolutely one to watch. Now, speaking of TikTok being obviously a Chinese-based app that's targeted at the West, on the topic of China and e-commerce, China is just killing it. In fact, Wunderman Thompson did a joint APAC report on the dominance of China as it relates to e-commerce. They did a joint. It was a joint report between Wunderman Thompson and Jing Daly, and it was called Transcendent Retail APAC. And it broke down some of the pretty amazing both statistics as well as some of the campaigns and methods of go-to-market e-commerce that are being done in region that have been successful, and it's pretty phenomenal. They talk about how much live stream commerce has grown, how much QR codes have grown, and they were already pretty dominant in the QR code space, but basically QR codes linked to social media apps, using that to gamify the experience and have that linked to effectively social and online currency, and web-only retailers investing in pop-up stores via QR and a whole bunch of other things. And then they talked about some specific campaigns that have done pretty well, particularly in the virtual NFT type space, exploding in China as well. They gave one example of Aston Martin, Maserati, and Tesla, all offering virtual cars in the Game for Peace app, or Game for Peace app, and over 518 million gamers in China. So pretty phenomenal numbers. And then what they talked about also is a trend in China for retailers to start targeting the last, or one of the biggest as yet untapped demographics, which is the seniors. So basically people over 55 years old, and helping them to become more comfortable using digital and e-commerce technologies. And so the statistic that came out of this report said that 81% of Chinese consumers over the age of 55 are now comfortable using digital and e-commerce technology, which is just phenomenal. And in line with that, the age of the senior digital influencer has coming into the fore. And there's one, apparently a KOL, a key opinion leader called Grandma Wang, who only wears high heels. She's 80 years old, and she has 16 million followers on Douyin, which is effectively Chinese TikTok. So, clearly going after a demographic that has been underserved and sort of somewhat ignored, I guess, with the millennial generation in China. So the other statistic that came out of this that I think was pretty relevant, particularly to Australia and to a smaller degree New Zealand, was that 80% of Chinese consumers say that they intend to shop more on social media platforms in the future, while 88% of Thais, 78% of Indians, 69% of Indians say that they will shop more on social moving forward, whereas in Australia and Japan, numbers significantly lower. Australians, 45%, Japanese, 25% respectively, say they will shop more on social media moving forward than they have historically. So, we got a long way to go to close those gaps with Asia in terms of penetration of digital and e-commerce. We got a lot of work to do out there, my peeps in digital. Another massive announcement came out of Southeast Asia. Lazada, which is a marketplace and retail model similar to Amazon. They operate in Indonesia, Vietnam, Malaysia, Thailand, Singapore, and the Philippines. Was originally started in Germany by a large German internet company, and then sold off to Alibaba. So Alibaba now owns Lazada, and they've started a new program to try to find the e-commerce leaders of tomorrow. So basically, like those key opinion leaders, trying to identify who those influencers and leaders will be in the space moving forward. And so they've created what's called Laz Pitch, which is an e-commerce talent competition for undergraduate students in Singapore. Competition invites, just reading from the announcement, competition invites teams of undergraduates from all subject disciplines to come together to shape the future of the e-commerce industry. And it goes to basically goes through all of the requirements for them to enter. And then basically they're going to take the top 10 entries, and then those top 10 will present to a judging panel, and they'll be shortlisted to a final 5. Then they'll undergo a workshop, and they'll basically create and craft campaigns to actually run across the website, the app, and digital channels in Singapore as basically a test and a competition. So pretty amazing stuff coming out of Lazada there. Now, just before we finish off, I realize I'm 4 minutes over time. Was a few minutes late today, so about on time. Now, my heart goes out to my fellow Australians in Australia. It's just pretty gutting to see that New South Wales and Melbourne/Victoria are going back into their lockdowns again, coronavirus lockdown. So basically shutting down the economies of Victoria and New South Wales because of Corona. It's pretty sad to see. A lot of my friends in the digital industry have just been doing it tough just because of all the time indoors, particularly those in Victoria/Melbourne. And that's their 5th coronavirus lockdown in Victoria and their 3rd lockdown this year. And it's going to go into effect tonight, and then it's going to be through next Tuesday. They'll be fully locked down, and it's a hard lockdown in Melbourne. Basically, very, very, very few excuses to actually be out of your house, apart from exercise and essential, like going shopping for food. So, yeah, pretty tough over there. And then in Sydney, same thing. Pretty harsh lockdown. Central Coast, Sydney, Blue Mountains, Wollongong, and that they were already in lockdown, and that's been extended by at least another 2 weeks to 30th of July. So my heart goes out to all my fellow Aussies out there, my friends in Aussie land. It's an absolute bummer, and I've got family living in Brisbane, so my mom and some other family live in Brisbane. So fortunately, that they aren't going into lockdown, at least at this stage, but we'll just have to see what happens. Now, also another podcast dropped this week. At the Coalface podcast dropped this week on Thursday. Kathleen Booth from Clean.io. If you haven't listened to that, please go and check it out. Absolutely awesome podcast. Taught me a thing or two about effectively hijacking of customer experience and how technology is out there both to hijack the customer experience, but then technology like Clean.io can help brands protect their brand experience, protect their margins, protect their customer data, etc. So go and check that out if you haven't already. Again, I'll be speaking at ITX Innovation Day next week, 23rd of July, Ellerslie Event Center. I'll be speaking there as one of the track sessions. So I'm looking forward to seeing anybody based in Auckland who's going to that. Look forward to catching up with you there. I'll also be speaking at Retail Global New Zealand in Queenstown, August 17th to the 19th, Queenstown Hotel in Queenstown. Super looking forward to that. I hope Aussie comes out of lockdowns by then, because I know that there was quite a few folks in Sydney and Melbourne that were looking to potentially come across for that. So, man, I really hope they're sort of out and our bubble is restored between Aussie and New Zealand by then, so you guys can come across for that. It'd be great to catch up with my Aussie friends. Also, if you haven't already, please check out At the Coalface Digest, which is my premium newsletter. Just Google At the Coalface Digest and you'll be able to find the website for that. I'm going to be running a prize draw next week from Monday, where I'm going to have a prize draw for 10 free subscriptions to the Digest. So I'm looking forward to announcing that on Monday. I'll announce that on LinkedIn, so do not miss that as well. So that covers all the news and announcements. Thank you very much for spending time with me. I'm just going to go back to all the commentary. Lee, thank you very much for popping in. Really, it's great to see you here. That is awesome. Sorry, and then I see Dr. I don't want to butcher the name, Dr. Hrach Tamarazan. I think I'm saying that right. If I've butchered your name, I absolutely apologize. I'm not that good sometimes with names, but I do try to get it right wherever I can. And that the the question was, what's that marketplace in the UK that's raised the 35 million pounds there called OnBuy, ONBUY. So go and check that out. It made major news earlier this week. And so, yeah, Todd, sorry about that upper echelon of wankerness. Yeah. Look, call a spade, I guess. But anyways, yeah, again, not out to offend anyone, but definitely they're playing up in the stratosphere of cost, that's for sure. So anyways, thanks everybody for popping by. It's been awesome to spend another Friday with you. Sorry about the sun in my face. It's been behind the clouds most of the day, and then it decides to come out right before I jump on live. So anyways, have one final swallow of my bourbon with you guys. Cheers. Again, thanks for spending time with me today. It's been awesome to be with you, and I will catch you next Friday, 4 p.m. New Zealand time, 2 p.m. Aussie time, and look forward to catching up with you then. Have a great weekend, all. Catch up with you next week, and I'll see you on LinkedIn and everywhere else.